Sir, right in the front row, you've been waiting.
I could ask you about one bloated agency or another, pick one. But overall of that is entitlements. How do you get them on?
Yeah. So imagine for a moment that you run a business. Many of you do. Or a household budget. Doesn't have to be a business, could be your household budget. And imagine that 70% of your money is tied up in something. Maybe it's your house. And it's really kind of tough to get after that. But meanwhile, let's also suppose that 30% of your spending is something kind of easy to get after. What do? Do you say, I'm going to ignore 30% of my spending and spend all of my energy on the 70%? No, you go after the stuff you can solve first. Why do I start by answering your question that way? Because presidential cycle after presidential cycle after presidential cycle, candidates will come out and talk about their wonderful ideas for entitlement reform, and guess what? It's never happened. There are binders full of great ideas about how to reform entitlements, but the problem is we talk about the tough stuff and then we never deal with the basic stuff. So before I am prepared to engage with the American people in how to reform entitlements, and yes, we indeed do need to do that someday, and there are loads of ideas about how. But before I engage with you in a discussion about how we might do that, I think I need to prove to you that we can manage the government competently and well. That we can actually get after the 30% that is under our control. Example, the TSA fails 96% of the time. Really? Have you ever noticed how the federal government always asks for more money every time you ask it to do something important, even though the government spends more money every year? So it is true, ladies and gentlemen, that under Republicans and Democrats alike, the government has spent more money every year for 50 years. We've been talking about reducing the size of government as Republicans for how long? We've never done it. We've been talking about reducing debts and deficits for how long? We've never done it. And yet, we never tackle it either. We never tackle it. So the federal government is asked to repair roads and bridges. What do they say? I need more money. The federal government is asked to invest in our military and serve those who have already served us, and they say, I need more money. The federal government is asked to answer taxpayer questions on tax day, and they say, I need more money. The federal government is asked to secure the border and fix the legal immigration system, and what do they say? I need more money. Balderdash, ladies and gentlemen, to use an old-fashioned expression. Here's my point. Every single year, a report lands with a thud on congressmen and senators' desks that outlines hundreds of billions of dollars of opportunity to save your money, to invest it more wisely. And what happens? Nothing. So I'm going to make something happen. We are going to reduce the size of government and at the same time improve its competency. We are going to demonstrate that every single dollar of your money is spent wisely and well. And yes, we will secure our border, and we will fix our legal immigration system, and we will do a top-to-bottom audit of the Department of Education, because it gets bigger every year and the quality of education continues to deteriorate every year. So what do you conclude from that? Spending money in Washington doesn't guarantee a better outcome. And then when we have demonstrated that and restored people's faith in their government, and by the way, it's critical that we restore people's faith in their government. This was intended to be a citizen government, and today 75% of the American people believe the federal government is corrupt. We have to restore people's faith in government, and then we can have a conversation about how to reform entitlements, because then the American people will believe and trust that we have the competence to do it in a way that is wise and fair. Yes, sir. Thank you. He's a groupie now.
Could you address how you're going to fix veterans' health?
Yes, veterans health care. The Veterans Administration is a stain on our nation's honor. We need to have the strongest military on the face of the planet, and everyone has to know it. And we cannot do that if we do not start by taking care of those who have served and cared for us. You know what I'm going to start with? I'm not going to go to the VA and ask them what they think they should do to reform their agency because they don't know. You know, what do bureaucracies, honestly, what do bureaucracies do? Bureaucracies protect their turf. That's what they do. It's not that the people in a bureaucracy are bad. It's just when you've been in it forever, what happens? You settle into what it is, which is, you know, I got to protect my turf, my people, my budget. That's just what happens. What I will do is go to 10 or 15 veterans. Maybe some of you veterans here, I know we have many, would volunteer. And I'm going to put you in a room and I'm going to ask you, tell us, the American people, how you want to be served. And I promise you, those 10 or 15 veterans are going to come up with a better blueprint of how to serve them than all the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. combined. And that will be our blueprint for change. This is what it means when I say challenge the status quo. We have to have a different set of ideas. We are intended to be serving our veterans, so let's ask them how they want to be served.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. As an activist for life here in New Hampshire, I'd like to ask you, I've been doing research on all the candidates, and I'm concerned that in the past you have supported federal monies to go to embryonic stem cell research, and I'd like to have your thoughts on that.
Yeah. You know, I think it's fair to say that no one has been a more vocal advocate for life than Carly Fiorina. No one. I ran as a proud pro-life conservative in the state of California. You don't do that unless you really mean it. I have taken on every challenge to our belief, which I now think is demonstrated by science over and over again, in the sanctity of life. There are occasions in the past where I have been asked if embryonic stem cells are going to be discarded in any event, can they be used for research? And in the past I have said yes. It's also pretty clear now that science has advanced, and we don't need those embryonic stem cells to do the research that we used to do. Nor do we need, by the way, the body parts that Planned Parenthood is harvesting. As a proud pro-life woman, I challenge everyone to watch those videotapes. By the way, Democrats will not. You ask Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, you ask their offices if they have watched those videotapes and you get dead silence. But honestly, I understand and respect that not all women agree with me. I know there are pro-choice women. And I also know that when a woman faces a difficult choice, she deserves all of our empathy and support. But you do not have to be a pro-life woman to look at these videotapes and understand that they are an abomination, that they undermine the character of our nation. You cannot have employees in a Planned Parenthood clinic tapping on a baby's heart and saying, look, it stops beating and I can get it to beat again, and I need to get it to beat again so I can harvest its brain. You cannot have employees saying, these are awful tapes to watch, ladies and gentlemen, but it's worth watching because this is at the character of our nation. You cannot watch employees picking over body parts while exclaiming, look, it's a baby. It is unbelievable that we have not yet defunded Planned Parenthood. And we should make every single Democrat stand up and explain why. And we should also remind people, this is an example of not just taking positions, but explaining our positions. We should ask people to understand the origins of Planned Parenthood. The origin of Planned Parenthood is someone who believed in preventing This was her words, the founder of Planned Parenthood, preventing the Negro from propagating. You should ask why most Planned Parenthood clinics are in poor communities of African American and Hispanic women. You should ask why in New York City every year more African American babies are aborted than born alive. Ask the Democrats to defend that, because, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're pro-choice or pro-life, the Democrats' position is this: it is not a life until it leaves the hospital. And that does not represent what the American people believe, whether they're pro-choice or pro-life. It is the Democrats' position that a 13-year-old girl really must have her mother's permission to get a tattoo or to go to a tanning salon, but not to get an abortion. This is not who we are, ladies and gentlemen. We need to have this fight as well.
You talked about our veterans. How about building up our military, taking care of IRS?
Yes. Well, that's a mouthful, but yes, those are all festering problems that we talk about every election cycle, and yet they never get solved. So let's just start with the military. I said we need the strongest military on the face of the planet, and everyone has to know it. That's a fact. So, what does that take? Of course, it takes money, but it takes money in the right places. You know, I advise 2 secretaries of defense, and in the Defense Department, there is something called the tooth to tail ratio. Tooth, tip of the spear, fighting men and women, technology, materials, supplies, weaponry, everything you need at the tip of the spear. Tail, bureaucracy, Pentagon, Washington, D.C. The Defense Department has measured tooth-to-tail ratios for a long time. The tooth-to-tail ratios are now as bad as they have ever been. In other words, we're under-investing in tooth. President Obama just announced he's laying off 40,000 soldiers. Really? He can't lay off anybody in the Department of Education or in the VA or anyone else, but he can lay off 40,000 soldiers? We are under-investing in tooth. And we are over-investing in tail. So the way to build up our military, once again, we got to know where every single dollar is being spent. We need to spend it on tooth. And we need to reform the tail. With regard to immigration, how long have we been talking about this? Really? 2016, 2012, 2008, we talk about it over and over and over. How long has the border been insecure? 25 years, ladies and gentlemen. How long has San Francisco been a sanctuary city? It's a news flash for some. San Francisco has been a sanctuary city since 1989. There are 300 of them in this country. Okay? So, we got to actually get about and fix this. We actually have to secure the border, and it is no one else's job to do it but ours, because a nation that cannot protect its border cannot defend its sovereignty. So what does it take to protect a border? This isn't rocket science, folks. It takes money, it takes manpower, it takes technology, but mostly what it takes, apparently, is leadership and political willpower. Secondly, we have to fix the legal immigration system because it contributes to the problem every day. Did you know that for years and years and years we have been handing out what are called border crossing cards? It gives someone permission to cross the border for a day. No one ever checks if they come home. Half the people who are here illegally came here on a legal visa, overstayed, nobody knew, nobody cared. We don't have an employer verification system that works, so we can't make it mandatory. Really? This is the technologically most sophisticated nation in the world, and we can't make an employer verification system that works? Of course we can. And we have to. And then we have to make it mandatory. All of this has to be fixed, so don't get distracted, please, by discussions about a constitutional amendment. We talk about that every cycle, and yet, while we talk about all these really interesting things, the basics never get fixed. I'm going to fix the basics, secure the border, fix the legal immigration system, and then, when we have done those things and demonstrated competency, then we have to have a discussion with the American people about what do we do about the people who have come here illegally and stayed here illegally. I don't mean the criminals, they have to go. My own view is they do not ever earn a pathway to citizenship. perhaps to legal status, but not to citizenship, because I know too many people, Hispanics among them, who have done it the right way. They've learned our history. They've raised their hand. They've taken the oath. They've earned the privilege of citizenship. And I don't think you can say to them, well, never mind. There's no consequence for doing it the wrong way or doing it the right way. Yes, sir. You've had your hand up for a while.
For only what you're telling us, so music to our ears. Clearly want the matinee debate.
Matinee. I prefer happy hour, but whatever.
The problem is you're still way down in the poll. What is your strategy to get into the point where others can hear you?
Well, I'm not way down in the polls. I'm in the top 5 in virtually every state now that has statewide polls, including here in New Hampshire. And considering that I started from really nowhere, when I announced my candidacy on May 4th, I had the lowest name ID of anyone in the field because I don't have years of email lists and I'm not a celebrity. And when I went into that happy hour debate, less than 40% of Republicans had ever heard my name. So now a few more people have heard my name. And a few more people are looking at me and saying, you know what, she can win this job and she can do this job. And I'm going to keep doing what I have been doing, talking to as many people as I can. I have covered 1,200 miles in New Hampshire in the last 4 days. I'm going to keep doing that. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? I need you to do your part. I know you New Hampshireites take your politics really seriously. I know you got to kick the tires of candidates many times. I know some of you are only hearing me for the first time. Maybe you're hearing me for the 5th or 6th time. Come on now, come on over. But here's what you can do, whether you're ready to commit to me or not. Tell your friends and neighbors about me. If you think my message is worth hearing, you know what it takes. You got to talk to people. That's how elections are won. At this same time in previous election cycles, the polls, the pundits, and the money said that Jimmy Carter couldn't win, Ronald Reagan couldn't win, Bill Clinton couldn't win, and Barack Obama couldn't win, and they all became president of the United States. And you know why? Because people decided they should. So I will do my bit. I promise you, I will not falter. I will be fearless in the fight I wage every single day, and I will cover the ground, meet the people, and do the miles. But I need you to do your part too. I really do. Okay, we're going to ask the lovely princess. You have the last question.
Okay. So, this
Miss
year-
America's Teen. Big round of applause.
So, I'm actually from New Hampshire, and I was just crowned 3 weeks ago Miss America's Outstanding Teen. And I'm going to be traveling all over the country talking about my platform of making sense and teaching kids to be financially responsible. And it's hard. I mean, we have a $16 trillion deficit. And you're expecting me to go around and say, you need to be financially responsible. You need to start saving money when our country doesn't save money. So specifically, what are you going to do about the $16 trillion deficit?
Yep. Such a great question. Thank you. We know why you're Miss America's Teen. Outstanding teen. So once again, how long have we been talking about debts and deficits?
Too long.
Forever, right? Under Republicans. Yes, it's gotten worse under Obama, but got pretty bad under Bush too, right? Okay, there are only 2 things you can do to reduce debts and deficits. We know what they are. You know what they are. What do? Grow the economy, cut spending. Grow the economy, cut spending. Grow the economy, cut spending. That's it. It's pretty basic. Here's the thing, though. If we cut spending in the right way, we help to grow the economy. Example, Dodd-Frank. You know, the financial crisis hits, right? Who caused the financial crisis? Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. 25 government agencies were supposed to be minding the store. When the financial crisis hit, did we reform Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? Nope. Did we reform the 25 agencies that failed? Nope. They're all still spending money. What we did was instead we created a brand new government bureaucracy, even more expensive, and we built this big new law. And the Wall Street banks, by the way, helped to write it because they always want to know that the rules are going to be okay for them. And what was the consequence? 10 banks too big to fail became 5. Even bigger, more powerful banks, and thousands of community banks have gone out of business. In other words, government got bigger and more expensive. and we're crushing the economy. Because when community banks fail, families and family-owned businesses don't get a chance. So we have to repeal that, cut spending, so we can grow the economy. There is example after example after example of this. The only thing we can do is cut spending and do it in a way that grows the economy. By the way, one last thing about the professional political class. How long have Republican candidates been talking about revenue-neutral tax reform? It's the wrong goal. We need revenue-reducing tax reform. Because if a bureaucracy spends too much money, you need to give it less money. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been very patient. I think you have other speakers this afternoon, so I'm going to close up if I may. But I would like you, as you consider your role as citizens, ours was intended to be a citizen government. We cannot be, I understand how angry and frustrated everybody is. I am. That's why I'm running for president. Because I think we need a different kind of leadership at a different kind of time in our nation. Do not be cynical. Do not step back. Citizens need to step forward, particularly now, and talk to everybody you know. People are most influenced by people they know. One of the things that Democrats do really, really, really well is they get their vote out. And every single election cycle, we don't get our vote out. All of our people don't come out to vote. We're losing elections by ourselves, folks. That's what the numbers say. So the fact that you're here is really important. The fact that you care is really important. The fact that you will talk to your friends, your neighbors, your colleagues, those you worship with is really important. And when you talk to them about the kind of nation this can be, the kind of nation this must be, the kind of nation that I am determined to lead. I think about Lady Liberty and Lady Justice, because those powerful symbols of our nation's democracy say everything we need to know about what we must be. Think of Lady Liberty. She stands tall and strong, as America must always be. She is clear-eyed, resolute. She doesn't shield her eyes from the realities of the world, but nevertheless she faces out into the world, which is the way America must always face, and she holds her torch high, because she knows she is a beacon of hope in a very troubled world. And Lady Justice, she holds a sword at her side, because she's a fighter. She's a warrior for the values and the principles that have made this nation great. She holds a scale in the other hand. And with that scale, she is saying to us, all of us are equal in the eyes of God. And so all of us must be equal in the eyes of the law and government, powerful and powerless alike. And she wears a blindfold. And with that blindfold, I think she is reminding us that it must be true, it can be true, that in this nation, it does not matter who you are. It does not matter what you look like. It does not matter how you start. It does not matter your circumstances. Here in this nation, it can be true that every American's life is filled with the possibilities that come from their God-given gifts. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Croc TV.